Welcome to Dinner at Joe's, and on tonight's episode we're going to make jambalaya and we're going to share in a memory. When I was a youngin', we would have home-cooked dinners most nights of the week, but often on Friday nights we would go out to dinner. One of the restaurants we liked to go to on occasion was a little Creole Cajun restaurant called Antoine's in Capitola Village by the sea. It's a nice little restaurant on an upper. You went up the stairs to go to it. Cool little restaurant. They always had a jazz pianist playing Cajun-inspired music in the restaurant. It was a beautiful restaurant. And when we first went there, I had to find something to eat. I didn't know the cuisine at all. And the thing I stumbled upon was jambalaya. It had chicken and sausage. Just looked interesting. And when I first ate it, it was really hot and spicy. But I kept eating it and realized that it tasted really good. So that's always been a wonderful memory, and that's what got me into eating spicy food. So when we come back today, we are going to talk jambalaya, how to cook it, the pans to use to cook it, and we're going to explain the difference between this jambalaya, which will be a one-pan jambalaya, and the more traditional jambalaya. Welcome back to Dinner at Joe's and our journey into jambalaya. The first thing we're going to talk about is the pans. I have two of them here. These are both perfect pans for making jambalaya. This is the one we're actually going to use here. And it's a nice 4-inch pie-sided saute pan here. And you need to make sure it has a lid that fits. That is important for this recipe because we are going to be cooking rice, so that's important. The other pan you can use is a saute pan like this. It'll work the same. It holds around the same. This also works very well. I do have a lid for this as well, but you can use that as well. We'll slide this one over here and this one over here while we talk about one other item here. I'm going to leave this here for illustration. The other similar recipe is paella, which is either all meat with the rice, meat and seafood and the rice, or just seafood and rice. Paella is cooked in this paella, which is the pan itself. The thing with paella, if you want to make it the real authentic way and do it where it comes out right, it is not a one-pan dish like our jambalaya. It will require actually 3 pans. It will require this pan first to make sofrito. Though you can cheat and buy pre-made sofrito in a little jar, the cost is not very good because you need a lot of those little jars. And it's so easy to make it homemade. So you use this to make your sofrito, which has been cooled once all the water has been cooked out of your vegetables. And that's your sofrito base. And then you start your paella in here. The other pot you're going to need is a saucepan for saffron, threads, and chicken stock, where the saffron is infused in the chicken stock. Those are what are needed for making paella. So technically this is a better recipe because doesn't require 3 pans, it requires 1. We'll slide our pan out of the way and we're going to start to talk about ingredients. We're going to be using chicken in this recipe. Also going to be using andouille sausage, which is an important ingredient in this recipe. And it is a smoked sausage, as you can see. And the sausage is smoked. And it comes ready to go. We're also going to be using in this recipe shrimp. The other ingredient here is some peeled and deveined. This is black tiger shrimp. but white shrimp would be fine too. And very important in this recipe is our Holy Trinity. This is the Creole version of mirepoix. And what I have here is onions, 50% onions, 25% celery, and 25% green bell pepper. I have a stalk and a half of celery, 2/3 of a green bell pepper, and a medium-sized yellow onion that have been chopped. I also have garlic and parsley that's been chopped, about 2 heaped tablespoons of parsley and like 4 large cloves of garlic. We're also going to use a little bacon in this recipe. And to cook our ingredients, we're going to use avocado oil here. But you could, if you had pork lard that you rendered yourself, that would be fine, or chicken fat is lovely. We need to talk about our spices. This is our spice blend, which we're going to make in the spice grinder because we have to grind up some bay leaves. And what I have here is 3 bay leaves, half a teaspoon of black peppercorns, half a teaspoon of white peppercorns, and half a teaspoon of cayenne pepper. That blend, the 3 peppers, is the secret to this recipe. We also have a teaspoon of dried thyme leaves and a teaspoon of dried marjoram leaves or oregano leaves, plus 2 tablespoons of Hungarian paprika, the sweet paprika. We're going to slide it into our spice grinder. This is the best way to do it. I don't recommend using a mortar and pestle because it would take a long time to get it ground so fine. So we're just going to use our little brush here. And this is a brush that I keep just for dealing with spices. Okay. I'm going to take a little piece of plastic wrap here. We're going to tightly cover our container here, and then place the lid on the top and process. What we need to do here is grind it down to a fine powder to get those bay leaves processed completely. Mix here, it's almost done here. You could technically buy everything ground, but I don't like to buy ground bay leaves. I like to grind them myself. They have much more flavor, and it's one less spice that you have to keep on hand. And also because ground spices go off faster than whole spices, so. I'm going to give it another grind here. Takes a few passes through the grinder, but it comes out good. And every so often just give it a little. Lost our power here. All we have to do is plug it back in. Double check and we should be. We're going to give it one more go in the grinder and we'll be good. All right. A little does fall out whenever you do this. It's because of this brand of spice grinder, but it functions. Now we'll just pour out our spice mixture so you can see it here. This is going to give nice color and that good traditional flavor. If you want a hotter jambalaya, then by all means, totally go forth and use a teaspoon of, if you like it spicier, then I would go a teaspoon of peppercorns, a teaspoon of white peppercorns, a teaspoon of black peppercorns, and a teaspoon of cayenne pepper. The other ingredients we're going to be using rice, and we're going to be using long grain rice, and I like jasmine rice, but Carolina rice would be fine. This is tomato juice. This is the Italian one, so it's not seasoned. You could also use ground tomatoes, would be fine in this recipe. And this is about a half cup's worth of tomato juice. And then we're going to use some dry sack sherry, which is a nice medium dry sherry, but it would be totally fine to use red wine in this or white wine as you choose. I also have 3 cups of chicken stock here. This is one that I made from chicken base. This is a liquid chicken base made from actual chicken. This gives the right distinct flavor for this and helps with the seasoning along with salt, which we're also going to add. But you could use your own chicken stock. I would just season it before you use it in this recipe. And we're also going to be using traditional Lean Parents Worcestershire sauce and some Crystal hot sauce. When we come back, we're going to be at the stove and we're going to be cooking this and show you how to do it in one pot. It's very easy. So I'll see you in a couple minutes at the stove. Welcome back to Dinner at Joe's and our jambalaya. We're going to turn our burner on and we're going to use our high-sided saute pan here. Turn our burner on and we're going to add into this 2 tablespoons of vegetable oil in here. If we need more, you can always add more if need be. We're going to get it all coated around the sides of the pan. And we need to heat this really hot because we're going to sear all of our ingredients, including the shrimp, which we're going to quickly jump in the pan, which you're going to quickly sear in this pan here just for a little color and pull them out, and then they'll go in the last 5 minutes of cooking. They're going to lay laid on the top. Now, first thing we're going to do is we're going to brown our chicken, and with this chicken I have seasoned this chicken with salt on it. And then we're going to brown the shrimp, pull them out, just give the shrimp a sear, and then pull them out. Brown the sausage, pull out the sausage, and then we will add back the sausage and the chicken after we get started with the vegetables that will be added. So we need to make sure this oil is nice and hot. You'll see the veils in the oil, the wispy veils, as call them, and you'll see little wisps of smoke. If it's not hot, then you're not going to get nice browning. And this is chicken thigh meat that I've cut in the similar cubes as the sausage, which you cut on the bias. I didn't remove any of the fat. That's all flavor. It's going to render out and add to the flavor. So no need to trim this. And I wouldn't recommend using chicken breast here. Doesn't have a lot of flavor. It doesn't work as good as chicken thigh meat. It will overcook. So we're going to use this chicken thigh meat, which is the best. Let's test it out here. That's what we want to see. We need to get it in one layer. So I'm going to add it in slow. Because when you're doing searing and browning, you need to do it in one layer. Because if you just put it all in a lump in the pan, then you're not going to get nice, serious browning. And browning equals flavor. So we need to make sure we keep this nice and in one layer. There we go. We're going to put it back in this pan in this dish once it's all brown. And we're not going to move it first. We're not going to move it around. We're going to let it sit so it gets nice browning, and then we'll start moving it around. After we brown and take out the sausage, then we're going to put the bacon in here and start the jambalaya itself. And then we will reintroduce the chicken and the sausage. And then the last 5 minutes of cooking, because it takes about 25 minutes. It takes about 30 minutes of cooking, and the last 5 minutes of actual cooking on the burner is when we will add back the shrimp. But it's also going to sit off the burner for 5 minutes with the lid on to finish. Give this a mix. If you get a little sticking, that's perfectly fine because it's all going to end up as nice flavor in this. Put this flip here. If you want to be diligent, you could use tongs and turn over all the pieces. I like this slotted spoon here, personally. For this part of the job, it's the best. And it allows me to pull everything out of the pan while leaving the fat behind. Awesome. Probably with prep, a little under an hour, maybe 55, maybe a little under an hour with the simple prep to make this easy recipe here. You want to get the chicken good and well browned because it's only going to cook 25 minutes on the stove, so it needs to be, the chicken needs to be very well browned. Not going to be fully cooked when it comes out of this pan, but it's going to have you need to give it a good head start. I'm going to pull all these little pieces of fat and just add them with my bacon so that they'll just be allowed to render out with the bacon. Okay. Looking good now. You can pull it all out. Let as much of the fat fall back into the saute pan because we need all that good fat in here. Now we're going to let it heat just a little bit here, back up. Now we'll lay in our shrimp. And these are going to just get a sear, just to give a little color on them, and then we will pull them out. Flip them a little bit. As you see, they're not fully cooked. They're just getting a sear. And now they come out. That's all the shrimp. I'm going to slide these shrimp out of the way for now. And in goes the sausage. And I've got 2 links of andouille sausage here. If you don't have andouille sausage, you could use Linguiça sausage would be a good substitute here. I wouldn't substitute something like Mexican chorizo, but you could also, if you can't find either of those, Italian sausages would be fine. Got a little custard cup here because we're actually going to spoon off just a little bit of the fat in here because we're going to have too much fat. We might have too much fat. Yeah. Definitely going to have too much fat in here, so I'm actually going to spoon off. About that much in there. You can always add back when we're cooking the vegetables if we need a touch more fat. But we don't want to have too much fat. Okay. Now the sausage comes back out. I'm actually going to turn the heat down all the way to low because we don't want to burn what's in here now. So we're actually going to put the bacon in here next. I'll slide these sausage and chicken out of the way. And now we'll go forth and we'll put our bacon in here. I'm going to switch to my favorite cooking tool here, which is my silicone mixing paddle. It's important that the heat now is on low. We're rendering the bacon out, and we don't want to burn the fond at the bottom that we've developed. And while that happens, bring over the rest of our ingredients. The goal is here to get the bacon well rendered. But you don't want to do it over a high heat because if you burn the bacon, that flavor just isn't going to be tasty. Now that the bacon, as you can see, the bacon is now fully rendered. So we're going to slide in our Holy Trinity. From now on, everything that goes in the pan stays in the pan. Okay. Usually at this point to add a little salt in here. And we're going to turn up the heat so we can get a little color on this now. We want to start to pull up all of our beautiful fond that has been developed. It smells delicious. Actually, you're going to add back just a tiny bit of this fat that we took out, just another half teaspoon, just to make sure there's enough in there. Because the fat is very flavorful. You just don't want this to be greasy. Always do a lot of scraping. This needs to cook down for a little while before we proceed. And the next we'll add the garlic and parsley. And we're going to add the rice. And we're going to toast the rice just like you would for rice pilaf. Then we're going to add our spice mixture. And we'll start adding some of our liquids deglaze with our wine and our tomato juice. It's important to get some decent color on these vegetables. It's not like rice pilaf where you don't want any color. You want good flavor with these vegetables. Okay. Smells lovely. We're getting some color on there. It's about 2/3 of the way there. We'll add our parsley and our garlic. And it's important to watch it when you put the parsley and garlic in here because you don't want to burn the garlic. Burnt garlic doesn't taste good. Still over high heat, which is important, so everything cooks. Now we're going to take our rice. We're going to add the rice in here. And we need to make sure the rice is fully cooked. I have 2 cups of rice and I have 3 cups of liquid, so I have 1.5 cups of rice per cup, 1.5 cups of liquid per cup of rice. Now that the rice is fully coated, next is the spice mixture, which we're going to sprinkle over. That also needs to bloom in this pan. But you just got to do this fairly quickly here because you are going to see some. It should go pretty quickly here. All right. Now we'll take our liquid here. Our dry sherry, about 1/3 cup. We're going to let the sherry cook out. And next, tomato. 1/2 cup of tomato juice. Or ground tomatoes if you can. If that's what you have. Or okay. Important here to let that tomato cook out because you don't want this to be soupy or have a. I'm going to put a little more salt in at this point, and we're going to add our stock in here. We're going to start to stir. Okay. Next, we're going to add a few dashes of Crystal hot sauce, a few dashes of Lee and Perrin sauce, in goes the chicken and any juices that remained with the chicken, and in goes the sausage and any sausage juices. For the time being. Okay. Now this has to come to a full hard boil before we, as you can see here, it's come to a full hard boil. So we're going to take our lid. We're going to clamp on the lid. We're going to turn the heat down to low. It's important to be low. And then in 20 minutes, we're going to uncover, add the shrimp, quickly cover it back up, and let it cook for 5 more minutes. And then after the 25 minutes, we're going to slide it off the burner and we're going to let it finish cooking off the heat. So we're going to come back in 20 minutes and I'll show you what it looks like. Welcome back to Dinner at Joe's, and we're going to uncover our jambalaya here. Let me grab the pot holder here to be safe. Wow, it's nice. Now we're going to add the shrimp. It's gone for 20 minutes, so we're going to nestle the shrimp in here. And you want to push it in a little bit Okay. If you didn't want to bother with dealing with large shrimp, you could potentially just use a little tiny bay shrimp, but I don't like the bay shrimp. I put this there. And now 5 more minutes. And after those 5 minutes are done, we're going to let it sit 5 minutes off the heat. So in 5 minutes time, we're going to be at the table and I'm going to show you, explain to you the difference between this jambalaya and the more traditional one and a more traditional one. The flavors are going to be similar, but I'm going to explain that in 5 minutes when we come back. See you then. Welcome back to Dinner at Joe's, and our jambalaya has come off the heat. It is now sitting for about 4 minutes to go here. We talk about serving. Traditionally, the jambalaya is often served on a plate like this that's got a little lip. The traditional jambalaya, what happens is they make the jambalaya itself, the stewed portion of it, all your chicken and your sausage is browned, and then you make a sauce piquante. And the chicken and the sausage, and if you're putting shrimp, that'll go in later, but it's all stewed in the sauce piquante, which means spicy sauce. And it has more tomato in it, yes, of course, and a few other ingredients, but it's similarly flavored to this. And then separately from that, rice is cooked, often in the pilaf style with scallions. And then you load your rice into a bouillon cup, or if you're doing a larger portion, this souffle mold works well. Give it a little spray with pan coating it, brush it with a little butter. And then you invert the cup of packed. First, you pack the rice inside the cup, or the bouillon cup, if you're using that. And then you invert like so, and you leave the cup as it is, and you ladle your jambalaya, sauce piquante, and chicken and sausage. And then if it's got shrimp in there, just make sure the shrimp are on the top. Then you remove, and you get this beautiful, beautiful presentation. Same would be with this cup here. And you get a little taller. You're probably going to get some, you'll get a little more rice in this one here. So that is the serving. And you could also serve this jambalaya on a plate like that, but easiest way, just use a good pasta bowl. These are made by Churchill, very sturdy. Lennox makes nice ones too. That's what we're going to use here today. And we're going to use a fork because we do need to fluff this before we serve. And then I don't have any fresh chives or scallions, so I'm going to use a little of these freeze-dried chives, just a few for garnish. Give it a little pop of color. You could also use parsley, but normally I would like scallions, but I don't have any on hand at the moment, so we're going to do it with that. And if you're somebody who likes it really spicy and you got people in your household that don't like it as spicy, what I recommend is serving hot sauce on the side, and then they can spice it more if they like. Because you don't want to overdo it and then it's unpleasant for everybody. So what we have here is about to come out here. Got 1 more minute to go here. And then we're going to uncover and take a look at it. I'm going to push it to the center here. I have it on a trivet, that's important. You don't want to burn this, your tabletop. There we go. This out of the way here. Perfectly cooked. I like to go to the bottom. And just, it's a little scrape on the bottom so it fluffs it, but also removes any delicious bits of rice crust on the bottom, because it will crust a little bit. And that's all good loveliness. It's delicious. This is perfect in hot weather, folks. I'm going to serve. If you counted out your shrimp, that's important, is to count out your shrimp. I'll make sure the shrimp goes on top here. Okay. Couldn't be simpler, folks. It's easy. And then just take a few chives or scallions or parsley. But don't use dried parsley. These are freeze-dried chives, so they'll be okay here. But do not use dried parsley. You don't have any fresh parsley. Don't use any parsley at all. I'm going to put one more shrimp on the plate here on the other side. And that's it, folks. Beautiful one-pan jambalaya. It's easy as pie. It smells wonderful. Beautiful aromas. It's lovely. Great for hot weather, because when you eat hot and spicy food, you sweat more. And that's better during hot weather, especially now while we're having this super heat wave. And today they found out that it was 130 degrees in Death Valley. That's almost the temperature, that's 5 degrees off from the temperature needed to hold food hot. That's craziness. But we made jambalaya today. It's lovely and delicious. Slide our lid on here, keep it warm. Makes a lovely meal. Serve a nice salad. And just put the pot right in the middle of the table. You can also use a pan. Let's say you had one that's got 2 handles on either side. Rather, you could use a chateau, and it's got the 2 ear handles, but it's the same on the inside. That would be fine too, because it's going to be deep enough. You could also, if you wanted, take it out into another dish, but no need to dirty anything else, folks. That's our beautiful jambalaya story for today. Enjoy. Peace out and keep it real. Until next time.